Hello, my name is Pikiss-Chris,
It's your boy, Bastard Swordsman.
and today we're bringing you another exciting episode of Scenes from a Podcast, the most gangster-ass film podcast this side of Eastern Standard Time.
Eastside!
Yeah. So, before we get into the film today, we're gonna talk about what we've been up to lately, see if we've got any good stories to tell, any gaffes, any media we've been into. So, anything to share, you bastard?
Um, well, that was rude of you calling me a bastard, but,
I mean,
um,
it's a play on the fact that your username.
yeah, I know. So, okay, haven't really been doing much lately. I mean, been trying to get a new place recently, but one interesting thing is that I saw a movie in theaters, one that I wasn't originally planning on seeing, but I heard good things, so yeah, I saw Puss in Boots: The Last Wish in theaters.
Oh, I'm gonna see that later today.
Yeah, so I was only vaguely aware of the movie's existence, and I didn't really think much of it. I thought, oh, there's like this Puss in Boots sequel. I kind of forgot that, or wasn't really aware. I don't really keep up on DreamWorks movies, but yeah, it's the second Puss in Boots, but the first one was like 11 years ago. Well, almost 12 years ago. It was 2011. Uh, and apparently that movie was really mediocre. I didn't watch it, but people were kind of going bananas over this one and saying, "Oh my God, it's one of the best animated movies of the year and of recent memory." And I'm like, well, I mean, okay, I'll go see it. And yeah, it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I really do think that DreamWorks, despite its reputation as the fucking haha dance party ending, animated studio, that it actually has a very solid resume of like films under its belt. Certainly a much more consistent output of quality than the Disney company, which they've got their fair share of like of diamonds, but I can name way more like pieces of turd than I could if it was like DreamWorks. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think it's more that Disney is just stagnated and they haven't put out anything really noteworthy or memorable or anything that feels like it has blood running through its veins in a really long time. Probably not since Wall-E, which was almost 15 years ago by this point. So, yeah, but I mean, yeah, DreamWorks also haven't been as good as they used to be for a long time. I haven't seen how How to Train Your Dragon. I hear a lot of people like that. That was 2010, I think. So I think that was one of their last really big, positively received films. Maybe the Kung Fu Panda sequels. I have no idea. But yeah, I don't know. They're still better than like Illumination or whatever. But yeah, I haven't been keeping up with their catalog, but I would assume this is definitely one of their best films in a long time. I personally wouldn't say it was amazing, but I'm also one of those people who saw Spider-Verse and was like, yeah, it was good. And I wasn't like blown away or anything. I mean, the animation was amazing, but the story and characters were just kind of serviceable to me.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I get what you're saying. I think that like style of writing whatever you'd call it, the Spider-Verse is like it's an acquired taste, and you don't really seem like the sort of person who like enjoys like, for lack of a better word, like that kind of banter. Like it seems like I enjoy it just fine, but you've expressed a couple of times that you think it's kind of annoying.
I mean, yeah, some of the humor is kind of weak, like Peter Porker or whatever, but yeah, I think the animation in Spider-Verse is definitely better than the animation in Puss in Boots 2, although it is animated very well. I was kind of surprised by how consistently great the animation was. It looks like a modern CG animated film. Um uh yeah, but the story was actually pretty good. It had some depth to it, some surprisingly mature themes for a kids movie. I don't want to get too much into it since you're just going to see it today. So, but yeah, they despite him being around since Shrek 2, I think that was like 18 years ago at this point. They managed to flesh out the character of Puss in Boots a lot more in this movie. So.
I mean, to be
Yeah.
honest, he didn't really have much plot relevance in Shrek 2 anyway. He was just
Mhm.
a walking cat joke. So I'm sorry,
But
Puss in Boots stands, but that's what he basically was in that movie.
I haven't seen Shrek 2 recently enough to argue or agree with that, but yeah, this movie was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I saw another movie in theaters, which was another animated film, an anime film to be precise, called Inuo, which, yeah, it's directed by Masaki Yuasa, who is considered to be like one of the big anime auteurs, but I consider him to be a massive hack. And he has made like a couple good things. In fact, one of the things he's made is called the Tatami Galaxy, which I would consider one of the best TV anime of all time. But he also made something called Japan Sinks 2020, which is honestly in contention for the worst anime I've ever seen ever. Um, but he's kind of his filmography is kind of weird. This film definitely has some problems that show up in a lot of his other works. Like there are just some scenes and like that go on for way too long. Like he has these ideas that he thinks are kind of cool, but then he kind of plays them out uh, to a point of redundancy, and they just become kind of monotonous to sit through. But I think overall, it was one of his better written works, and the animation was okay. It definitely wasn't as good as Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, but yeah, Inuo was okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess you wouldn't really have much input since you aren't familiar with Masaki Yuasa, but
I'm looking up some stuff about
yeah.
Tatami Galaxy right now. Uh, it's got a nice DVD cover. That's the extent I can add to that conversation.
Yeah.
But all right, yeah. Uh,
So, yeah, I think that's about it for stuff we've seen or watched or played lately.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So today's film, we're gonna talk about. Uh, I always want to say the year it came out, and I never know what year it comes out because I'm a dumbass.
It was 2018.
Yeah, it was 2018. Ari Aster, horror film Hereditary, or as I like to call it, Billy Shapiro destroys the nuclear family with facts and logic.
I think it's, did you say Billy Shapiro? I think it's Millie Shapiro.
Billy Shapiro? Wait.
Yeah, it's Millie, Milly.
Fuck. All right, well, sorry about that, Millie. Didn't mean to misgender you. Though I guess that would be appropriate given the themes of this movie. Spoilers, I guess.
Yeah, I can't believe Ari Aster denounced all trans people in this film.
Yeah, I mean, nah, I don't know. I don't think that was his aim. I mean, obviously, I don't think he really has anything to say about trans people, but like,
Yeah, that was just an edgy joke.
yeah,
It's not really about that at all.
yeah, yeah. No, what this film is actually about is, well, it's about a lot of things, but like the gist of its like main plot is that Jenny Colette's character, the mother, is
Tony Collette.
what?
It's Tony Collette.
Tony Collette. I cannot get people's names right today. Maybe that's charming. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Basically, she's the main character. She's the mother of this dysfunctional family that's trying to move past the death of her abusive mother, the grandmother of her son, and some stuff goes down with her ambiguously developmentally disabled daughter, and yeah, it's one of those films that like you have to like see yourself, and you can't really talk about it much
Oh,
without spoiling it because it markets itself one way but it like turns out completely different.
spoilers for Hereditary.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. uh I'm gonna come out and say this. I don't think this is a controversial opinion. I think the first two acts of this movie are probably the best part of it in terms of like suspense and themes and characterization and all that, and that once it gets to the third act and we find out what it's actually all about, it sort of drops off a little for me. It's still like well directed and all that, but like it's not very cohesive thematically at least.
I've seen some people say that the ending is the best part, and I just cannot for the life of me agree with that take. But yeah, this is the third time I've seen this movie, and I really liked it the first two times that I saw it, and I still liked it this time, but I don't know, I kind of picked up more on some plot points that I'm like, that seems kind of a little contrived. And didn't really do it for me as much as it did on the first two viewings, but I still do like the movie. I would say probably the best aspect of the film is the cinematography.
Yeah, I do love those. I love those shots of like the motif of them being in a dollhouse,
Yeah,
like that opening shot where it's like it zooms in on the dollhouse and it becomes like the actual like room that the son is sleeping in, and also how that like that it closes off at the end with like the tree house and it's shot in a similar manner at the end there. I thought that was
that was a really cool way to open the film.
yeah, and I think it thematically like it thematically sets things up. It's about this family that's lived under the thumb of this controlling, abusive woman for so long, and they're all like dolls to her almost. And I feel like looking at it through that lens is probably the most interesting way to look at it. Like 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 as a like as a metaphor for like that abusive relationships and sort of generational trauma. When it gets into like the more supernatural stuff, specifically, again, spoilers, the last third reveal that it was all about a demon worshipping cult, it's sort of like it just becomes too silly for me, too like lost in the realm of fantasy for it to really be as effective. But
Um, I think you told me before you haven't seen Midsummer. I have. So I would say that Ari Aster is a really good like director. He's good with the visuals, but his stories tend to be a little derivative and really drop off towards the end. Like there's a lot of aspects and from other films that this movie kind of pulls from. There's this 70s horror movie called Don't Look Now, which is also sort of about like uh, the trauma of a death of a family member and stuff like that. It kind of pulls from movies like The Exorcist with the possession angle, but I mean it's definitely its own thing too. But yeah, one other thing I wanted to comment on is the dollhouse motif. Um, it kind of cements how powerless the characters are in the grand scheme of the plot. Like they are just like caught up in this scheme by this demon cult, which the grandmother was a part of, and also it sort of has this antiquated feel, like of the nuclear family, father, mother, son, daughter, and this film is basically just about the destruction of a family.
yeah. Would you say that it's like a quote unquote commentary or subversion of the nuclear family, or that it's just like playing into our like fear of it being messed with, and it's not doesn't really have anything to say about it specifically? Because
Well,
if so, that would be kind of
I don't think it's really trying to comment that much on like the role of the nuclear family in modern America or whatever. It's more just a sort of tragedy about generational trauma and the slow dissolution of uh, a family and how trauma can, like, it can bring people together, but it can also tear people apart. And this is, of course, a demonstration of the latter.
yeah. Because I was gonna say, I think in most stories that are like about the deconstruction of the American nuclear family, it's usually like the father, the patriarch, who's the one the centerfold of the most flaws and vices, because it's like commentating on that power structure. But here it's actually like he's the father, Gabriel Byrne, bless him, is the most rational and sane, and the mother is the one who's, because she's, the byproduct of her mother, she's the one with the most issues.
Well, Gabriel Byrne's character, the dad, seems kind of detached a lot of the time, in my opinion. Although it he does like feel genuine emotion and distress over the situation. And there is that scene towards the end of the film where he does like break down in the car. So he does have genuine emotion, but he's like of that sort of breed of man that believes they should really like hide their emotions deep down. And Tony Collette is just going through like this massive episode of psychosis and kind of just going crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue how much of that is, just the father's character flaws, and how much of that is him just not wanting to like put up with, I can't really say it without it sounding like a piece of shit about it, but not really wanting to like start conflicts in this household that is nothing but conflict. So
Yeah.
uh I will say, talking about Toni Collette's character, again, this was sort of the first movie I was introduced to her in, and I think she's, to me at least, by far and away the best actor in the whole film.
Oh, I definitely agree. This is the first film that I saw. Well, I don't think it's the first film that I saw where she was in it, but it was the first film that I saw where I was like aware of her presence in the film and her status as an actress. And she's been in films for a couple decades by this point, but yeah, she does a really great job. Definitely the standout of the film. I mean, then you got Alex Wolf from the Naked Brothers Band. His performance is a bit.
Yeah, is that like, I feel like it's more so just the character he's written as rather than like the performance itself. Like he's the
It's not
typical
like.
sullen
Not,
teen thing.
I mean, it's not a terrible performance, but like I'm mostly just thinking of the scenes where he's crying and he's going.
I mean, I I
So,
I didn't mind those too much. You know, I thought it was like a nice change of pace to see like people actually like stressed out and terrified out of their minds in the situations they're in. It felt like, to me at least, like it felt earned, because I don't think in real life I would like fare much better if I was like the product of a demon worshipping cult, but
well,
who
my
knows?
problem's more just that I didn't really find the crying and like moaning like believable. It
All right.
sounded very kind of fake to
All
me.
right, that's fair. That's fair at least.
Like I do like the scene where, um, well, actually, I do want to talk more about the setup to the scene first. Millie Shapiro's death. Um, so I on this watch, I did find the setup kind of contrived, like Tony Collette. Like, well, okay, so Alex Wolf is going to this party with a bunch of other high school students, and Tony Collette is like, "Well, your sister's not really doing anything. You should bring her, and she'll have fun. Like, she should go." And I'm like, that's a really terrible idea. Like, um, it's not. Well, her actress was actually like 15 when she was, starring in the film, but she is implied to be sort of like younger, maybe like early middle schoolish, but like, so, like, why would you send this like young middle school girl off like to hang out with a bunch of high schoolers? That sounds like a bad idea. Like, I don't know. And she's also worried about Alex Wolf's character drinking. Like, she's like, no drinking. But so she's aware of what, these teens usually get up to, but she still sends the daughter, which, I mean, she's not really portrayed as being the perfect mom or anything. And she probably just can't really deal with her at the moment. But it's just like a really stupid decision and like feels like a bit forced just to
Just to
have the
get the
setup
plot
where,
rolling.
yeah, where she'll like then eat the cake that has nuts in it. And I'm like, you know, that's another thing that's set up really early, that she has the nut allergy. Um, Although when she's eating the chocolate at first, her parents ask, "That doesn't have nuts in it, right?" And she's like, "No, it doesn't." So like, I don't know, you'd expect her to like, I don't know, like at least ask if the cake that she eats has like nuts in it, but I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I guess I sort of got the takeaway from the scene. I think that the point, like, emotionally, is that even if it's like it probably wouldn't work because of the age difference and because of like the difference in socialization and whatever. Like she just doesn't like the fact that her daughter is weird and she wants her to make friends, and forcing her to go make friends is like her way of being like, stop being weird. So
Yeah. She's like heavily implied to have like autism or something.
yeah, I do want to talk about the daughter character uh a bit, because I think like on some level she represents the trope of, oh, the scary creepy child in the horror film, which we've talked about that. I think we both hate that trope because
Yeah, like
children,
children aren't scary. You
yeah,
can
they're not
beat them
scary.
up easily.
Yeah, they're not scary. But here it's a little, because she's almost as much of a victim herself as everyone else in the family.
I wouldn't say almost.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but it's like, because it's like, so so the gist is that she has a demon living inside of her. She probably doesn't know it. Nobody in the family knows it, and I think that's implied to be the reason why she's so neurodivergent or something, and which is a bit silly, but it's the
She's
idea that,
literally a neurodivergent and a minor.
yeah, yeah, she's like, she gets decapitated and you're like, oh my fucking god.
That was a lot of films, just in general. Even like R-rated movies don't have the balls to kill off a kid, like let alone that gruesomely. So I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, that was definitely that's a very effective scene.
yeah, it is. It's like, and then there's the seance where they summon her back and she like possesses the mother, but like she's fucking terrified because she's dead. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know all these machinations going on around her. And I thought like that honestly adds so much to the stress of the scene than if it had been like, just, oh, she's evil because she's a creepy kid. It's actually kind of tragic in a way, which goes back to what you were saying about everyone being like a toy in a dollhouse.
Yeah, and like in the cult is well, I mean, the cult members show up like obviously really early on. There's that like one creepy guy at the grandmother's funeral who like looks at Millie Shapiro with this really creepy grin, and then he shows up like later in the film too.
Yeah. Was
Yeah,
he
when
the
he's naked.
guy? Yeah, he was the naked guy.
I mean, there are a lot of naked guys, but yeah, he was the guy who Alex Wolf first sees.
Okay, yeah. He has a very distinct face compared to the other extras. Uh, you want to talk about like the demon cult stuff more, and like,
Yeah, yeah, they okay, so basically they're trying to bring back a or summon this demon who can only be summoned through, this ritual through the family, and it's going to possess Alex Wolf. They call it Paimon, but the demon's actually supposed to be called Paimon.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of embarrassing, but
Well, I mean, they just
oh
saw
well.
the A in front of it and were like, "Oh, that's how it's pronounced." You know.
Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I mean, I don't really have that much to say about it. I mean, I so the grandmother is shown revealed to have been part of that cult, and like metaphorically, it's like definitely supposed to be about, another piece of generational trauma and how like like they're literally like cursed, just like how, trauma and abuse is sort of a curse that like inflicts like a whole family and just stays with you for the rest of your life basically. But like the demon summoning itself wasn't really very interesting and not very scary to me.
Yeah. It's
Um,
just goofy.
yeah,
Is like
very goofy.
yeah, because it's like
Now
you could
there,
easily sorry.
no, you go ahead.
You could easily have like kept to like that theme of generational trauma by just having like the house be haunt. I know it's a problem in its own right because it's also a cliche, but like it's so much more thematically relevant if it was just like the grandmother is the ghost haunting them or something like
Well, I mean, I might have like even if it was like a demon cult or something, or might have been better if the grandmother was just like a singular cultist as opposed to her being part of this like big group.
yeah, because it's like all these other guys are just fine to throw away all their fucking like reservations about like killing people and doing all of this gross weird shit just on the off chance it'll get them money if they get this right, which is shown that they have been fucking it up for so long. It's like I don't think the investment is worth it, guys.
Um, I do think the last shot of the house where it cuts from day to night and then it shows all the people like hanging around was kind of like a creepy shot because it doesn't really call. I mean, they're easy to spot, but it doesn't like call attention to them. I do like those sort of creepy shots where something will just be, you know, on screen and there's not necessarily like any loud music or anything or other indicators that something creepy is on screen, but you just like have to notice it yourself. And I do like that, but I don't know, like just the mere presence of like naked people isn't really very scary. Um, in fact, the, like the scene towards the end where like Tony Collette's character like decapitates herself with like some piano wire, and Alex Wolf sees like the naked people just standing there, and he's like,
Like
"Ah,"
that's what
and
pushes him
then he
over
like
the edge.
yeah, then he like runs out, like crashes through the window. That scene is like really funny to me.
It's like it's not seeing his fucking mom cut her head off that like makes him kill himself. It's the stupid fucking cultist waving at him.
I mean, I'd be. I mean, I would like probably freak the fuck out if I saw like some naked, gross people in my house, but like I don't know, they just like look goofy because they just are like standing there and not really doing anything, and it's more just like how he like screams and then like just immediately like runs towards the window and breaks through, and it's like a very sort of fake looking CG window smash, and it just looks so goofy.
Honestly, if you had like ended the film right there after on that shot of him just lying dead, you could like rebrand this as a comedy almost.
I mean, I've seen some people say that it's like supposed to be a dark comedy, but I wouldn't go that far. I think like I don't think it's a bad film, but that I don't really care for that scene very much.
Yeah. I mean, I do kind of like the follow-up scene where it's like Pyman possesses him and he like goes up into the treehouse. But again, that's only because it's like it's about the daughter character again, where it's like there's this little vestigial piece of her psyche left, I guess, in the possession.
Yeah.
And it's like she's basically just being used by her grandma and the rest of these cultists as a means to an end now. And I thought that was like pretty interesting. Like the cult stuff is still stupid, but again, making it about like how they're abusing the members of the family, it almost justifies it. Almost.
I do kind of like the slower pace of the film. I don't know. I just like sort of like slow panning and tracking shots, and I like the droning soundtrack. That was cool. Very ambient.
Yeah. I'm usually not a fan of ambient music, but I don't know, it just works here. Like it still has like a melody to it where like most ambient music is sort of downplays the melody.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but yeah. Yeah. This is like one of those big quote unquote elevated horror movies that like A24 has kind of become synonymous with, and it's really just horror movies that also serve as like psychological dramas. And I wouldn't really consider this like deeper than like a lot of other great horror movies. In fact, there are a lot of horror movies that I would say are far deeper than this and have much more depth to them. Um, but I do kind of like this style of film, but it is already becoming sort of antiquated. Um, and I don't know, like, yeah, like, I don't know. There's this other A24 movie called Men, which almost seemed like, felt like self parody of this same style, but it was cool when it was like coming out, but yeah.
I mean, I think this is like another like can of worms entirely. I'm not a big horror fan, but I do my friend is, and he sort of goes off about how like there are actually like a lot of really good horror films if people are like willing to look for them, but that like they're always paying outsiders are always just paying so much attention to like trash, like the Bye Bye Man or whatever, that like when something like Hereditary or The Empty Man comes out, people call it elevated horror and sort of say it's above the rest of the genre. So
I've never heard anyone call the Bye Bye Man elevated horror, but
no, I
I
said
think it's more.
I said The Empty Man,
Oh.
or maybe I
No,
did
you
say
said
the
the
Bye
Bye
Bye.
Bye Man.
Maybe I get.
That was a really funny mistake, though. So,
Elevated horror film, The Bye Bye Man. But yeah, it's like there's a lot of stupid horror films out there, and then whenever like a good one comes out, people say, "Oh, it's above the rest of the genre," in a
yeah,
way
they get
that
really pretentious about it.
yeah, they they don't you don't really see that sort of thing with like other genres, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I don't really have too much more to say about the movie. I mean, it has some goofy moments, but it's a lot of it is well done. Great performance from Tony Collette. Well directed, well shot. I like the score. Uh, it has some thematic depth to it, even though I don't think it all like quite comes together in the end. But yeah, I still like it. Do you have anything else to say about it?
I think I think this is like the film that made me realize that like something doesn't need to be perfect in order to be considered like art, because this film has a lot going for it, even if I can like go on and on about how I don't like the Pyman stuff and the demon cult stuff all that much. Like you said, it
No
has
art
a
is perfect.
what?
Well, no art is perfect.
But yeah, but I mean like even still, like there are some works where it's like the flaws are almost unnoticeable. And with this, it's like I noticed a lot of the storytelling flaws, but you know, the direction, the acting, the ambiance, all that, it just I had a lot of respect for it and for what it got right in spite of like my grievances with it. And I think even if there are better films out there, it's a horror film that people should watch just to like to experience it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I would personally give it like a 7 out of 10. And while it does have flaws, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a good entry point to more like psychological horror films. And it's a very competent first feature. Like Ari Aster knows what he's doing behind the camera. And it's also a good gateway to A24, even though they have a lot of great films that aren't horror films. They are sort of like known for their horror films, and this is one of the films that they're most known for. So yeah, it's good. Definitely better horror movies out there, but it's still very good and better. It is better than a lot of trash out there.
Yeah. I I'd recommend like this is one of those things where it's like streaming won't cut it. If you can, you probably want to get it like as a like a DVD or a Blu-ray or something, you know, physical media. Own it for yourself.
Preferably Blu-ray, and it is definitely a rewatchable film. Like I still have fun watching it again, even knowing what happens.
Yeah. Even if the demon cult stuff is a little silly, there is a lot of like build up and hints to it throughout the film that you can like appreciate like on rewatches. So it's like that's cool at least. One more thing I want to bring up, it doesn't necessarily have to do with like commentary or anything like that. A24 also owns Has Been Hotel, and there is a character in Has Been Hotel called Pyman, and I like to think it's the same Pyman in fucking both works for some reason. I don't know, I just think that's funny to me.
I like not to think of Has Been Hotel at all.
But it has fucking the brony guy is the singer for Alice Alador.
All I know is that it has Joshua Tomar, who's in Oni Plays.
Really? I didn't
Yeah, one of the Oni Plays guys is an actor in it.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah.
That is the last place I'd think to find anyone in Oni plays.
Mm. Yeah,
So,
so you can always get it on Blu-ray, but if you do want to stream it, it is currently on HBO Max and Showtime and Canopy, which is a nice little underrated streaming service, and also on DirecTV. And yeah, those are the places where you can stream it for free. Well, I mean, I, if you get a free trial. Obviously, you have to pay for a subscription, so it's not free. Nothing is free in this world.
Freedom
But yeah,
from the body. I don't know.
but
So, what film do you have recommended for next time, Bastard Swordsman?
well, I've been thinking between a few films, but I did decide on one. It's from 1975. It's directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it's called Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon. Is that
Yeah,
Lyndon with a Y or an I?
Y. BarryLyndon.
Okay, then. Up next, we're seeing Barry Lyndon by Stanley Kubrick. Keep posted for that.
Yeah. So if you don't want spoilers for Barry Lyndon, you should watch it. And yeah,
Yeah. All right. That's it for today. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
see you next time. Bye.